All right. Welcome back to Practify, the podcast where we go inside the minds of private practice owners who've successfully scaled their practice and are open to sharing the strategies and mindset behind their growth. Today's guest is someone who's been at the heart of nutritional therapy in the UK for over 2 decades, from her time as head of clinics at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition to launching game-changing practitioner support programs like her EECN course and clinical support groups. Nicola Moore is not just a respected practitioner, she's a leader helping others feel more confident, more connected, and more capable in their clinical work. Nicola, it's an honor to have you on Practify. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
It's awesome to have you. All right. Before we dive into the amazing work you're doing today with the EECN course and clinical support groups, I want to take a step back because I think it's always powerful for listeners to hear how someone got to where they are now. So, Nicola, let's take it back to the beginning. What led you into nutritional therapy in the first place?
Well, I got into nutritional therapy in a similar way to lots of other people. I discovered the power of nutrition to help with my own health. But in conjunction with this, I was working in a job where I was really unhappy. So as soon as I found nutrition and got lit up by the subject of nutrition and nutritional therapy, it gave me two things. It gave me my health back, but it also gave me a vision of where I wanted to be in the future with the sort of work I wanted to do. It gave me a direction in career for the first time in my life. So it was wonderful.
And what were those early years in practice? Like, what did they look like for you?
So a lot of trial and error. So when I first graduated, the internet was still actually quite in its infancy. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but it's amazing how much the world has changed in the last 20 years, So to get clients at that point, it was very unusual to have a website. It was, people didn't have, you dialed up to get onto the internet using modems and there wasn't any social media or anything like that. So you built your business really from a grassroots perspective. So when I first started working, I was working from a couple of clinics and I used connections that I had, friends that worked in physiotherapy, friends that were personal trainers. They supported me with sending me clients and I was able to grow from there.
Would you say there were any mistakes or tough seasons in your journey that you now see were essential for your growth?
Yeah, there's been lots of things over the years. One of the issues that I had was there was no mentoring, there was no support, there wasn't the sort of help that I now offer practitioners with getting set up with business or just knowing how to work with clients in a sustainable way. And I think one of the things with nutritional therapy is we're taught all about the science, we're taught about how to sort of almost run a consultation and basic clinical skills. But actually the model that we're taught doesn't really allow you to build a sustainable business or really help you to actually often grow in your confidence, weirdly. So I used to see clients and almost be afraid to book them in for a next appointment, or I used to sort of I was always thinking about, okay, well, this is the last time I'll see them. I never really had that sort of vision that I could work with someone for a long period of time. So for years, I was getting new clients coming in, but they were coming and going, and I wasn't really doing much to keep them sort of with me. The irony is my very first client I'm still in touch with. So there were people but they would come back maybe once a year or whatever. And I so it took me a really long time to develop a way of working based on actually what my clients were teaching me rather than what I had been taught from the sort of the institutions where I'd been working and training and stuff like that.
So would you say there was a specific turning point where you looked at things and how they were and you were like, the industry needs to change how it supports practitioners?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I have a couple of clients that I will never forget who have pushed me to really change the way I work. And what I did was I allowed myself to be flexible. And the more I started working in a way where I was seeing people really regularly, doing quite a different model of practice to what we're taught, which is we're often taught to see someone, take a really thorough case history, really then sort of with them, then just sort of send them an awful lot of information afterwards, almost let them get on with it themselves, maybe see them again a month later to find out what they haven't been able to do. I was working quite differently. And through my work at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition, it was becoming frustrating in a way, heading up the clinics and not having the ability to be able to bring into the curriculum or the clinical training these different models of practice. There's so many other things that are going on within those training settings that make the practicalities of it actually quite difficult. So I could see why that was a problem. When I left ION, I started setting up my own groups to support practitioners, to support students. And the more the years went on with that, the more I was just finding that we were talking about different models of practice. And I was trying to sort of really help everyone understand you don't have to be doing it this way. You're making it almost too hard for yourself, and you're almost putting too much pressure on yourself and your client in the process. That's why I then developed the Enterprising Excellence in Clinical Nutrition course, because I really suddenly started seeing I've got something really unique to offer people here that can teach them a much more sustainable way to work and allow people actually the confidence to step away and look for themselves at how they want to work with their clients.
And what did that chapter at ION teach you about what practitioners really need in order to thrive?
Gosh, well, I suppose what it taught me is that we do a lot of something called negotiation with our clients. That we teach about negotiation. We teach about making sure you give people really actionable, sensible, strategic plans that they can take away and do. And I think that is really important and really key. But what we don't necessarily teach is how to do the work with the client in the room. And by that, I mean really following up with a recommendation that might be quite a standard recommendation. Everyone these days talks about protein, don't they? Like, have more protein. It's a very good, useful nutritional principle to include protein in your diet. And what we teach a lot is like to say to somebody, right, can you have protein with every meal? Okay, or something like that. You might go a bit further and go, protein is these sorts of foods, okay? But what I wasn't seeing was people going, and what does that look like for you? Let's now look together at what that is for you, and actually almost leaving, so possibly spending an awful lot of time on that very one thing. So it's sort of changing, rather than trying to give a lot of things or even a few simple things. It's simplifying it down even further, and really sort of holding a client's hand in a way that almost feels like it doesn't feel like it should be that. You shouldn't feel that we should have to do that, but actually we do have to do that with our clients. And that then means that actually you need to meet them more regularly to actually have those conversations, to make those changes that the client actually feels that they can do immediately, and start to get the benefits and the support immediately as well.
And if you had to sum up your mission in one sentence, like, what would it be? What are you after now?
Well, for many years, my mission has been that I just want to champion positive health messages and relationships with food. So another thing that I see a lot of in the nutrition space, and I've actually seen since my very first days working in practice, is a narrative around more restriction and taking things out of the diet, or finding problems, or making big sweeping changes that are really sort of potentially overwhelming, which for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people can then cause some confusion, second guessing, and almost anxiety about eating and food. Likewise, it's easy to become a bit anxious about health the more you learn. The more you learn about health or yourself, or the more you work maybe with a practitioner who can see all the problems, you can be gifted health anxiety. You can be gifted actually problematic relationships with food. So my mission really is to champion positive messages, to champion expanding diets, to champion bringing more food into the diet, squeezing problem foods potentially out of the diet, looking at people's relationship with food, why they eat in the first place. The basic stuff that, again, isn't necessarily taught so much in nutritional therapy. It's very much more focused on the pathology, the dietary interventions, what you should take out, the therapeutic diet. These are not things that are not valid, but we need to sort of be very, very careful with how we speak to people about this sort of stuff. So that's really my mission. So that means through that mission, really, that involves the work that I do with my clients, with the programs that I run, with the talks that I give, with my own podcast, Healthily, that I have, but also with continuing to work with practitioners, continuing to work with students, so that all of us together are thriving and developing together in this mission.
And on that note of working with lots of practitioners and mentoring many students, what would you say is something that you've learned about yourself that might resonate with others going through the same journey?
I think that I think one of the major things is our perception of value. So what we as practitioners consider to be valuable and of value to a client versus what our client's perception of value is. And what I have learned is that many of us nutrition practitioners have a skewed idea of what value means to our clients. So it took me a long time to talk myself out of my values, where I was from a sort of position of value. So I felt that value was giving 110% of information to that client in that first appointment, giving them all the stuff, sending them everything. Oh, and look, we didn't talk about this, but I've been thinking about it, and this would be really good for you as well. And for me, I was saying that is value for money. That is, they're paying me. I've got to get this right. Whereas really what my clients have taught me when I allowed myself to listen, when I allowed myself to start listening, was actually their perception of value is quite different to that. Like their perception of value is having the space to ask and time to ask me questions, having the time for me to be able to talk to them about how you might cook a fillet of fish, where in the supermarket you find this thing, or if you're looking at these supplements, what you need to consider with the ingredients or whatever. So just breaking it down and making it far more simple, and actually recognizing sometimes it's almost like it feels too easy, and it feels like, but actually that is what my clients want. So that's sort of one of the biggest learnings, I suppose, from sort of the work I've done, but also observing so many students over the years. I worked in the training clinic for 12 years at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition. I observed thousands of hours of clinical work with amazing, hardworking, brilliant students. But this common theme of value, the skew of what the value is a common thread.
So this is the thing, right? For all the practitioners listening, as a practitioner, how do you actually find your client's perception of value? Because it seems like your perception of value as a practitioner is very different to your clients. So what advice do you have for practitioners who were like you? They feel stuck in what their perception of value is versus what the client actually values.
Yeah, we spend so much time looking at this on the Enterprising Excellence course that I do, because I think the key is to be brave enough to listen to your clients and to ask your clients. People will be telling you for years. I think my clients were trying to tell me stuff, and I was sort of almost like too stuck in the way of working that I felt to be right to really listen, and almost arrogantly thinking I knew best, or this was the way it should work. So I think, really asking people is, how has that been for you? Has that been enough? Was that too much? How did you feel after our last session? These can be quite scary questions to ask, especially if you're new to working. But actually, again, coming back to sort of our position of value or sort of, I don't know, just our view on what is important. My experience with clients is, by asking these questions, you actually increase your trust together. You increase your relationship. You improve your relationship with your client. They feel even more listened to and heard, and they feel that they're getting even more value because you're taking the time to ask those questions, and then really allowing yourself the ability to listen to the answer and adapting your processes as you go, and being able to be flexible and experimenting with things. It's okay.
I think that hearing your story makes it really clear that your work today isn't just based on theory. Like, it's come from years and years of seeing where practitioners struggle and what actually helps them thrive. So one of the things you've created from that experience is obviously the EECN course, which we'll get into now. And I know that this has become a real turning point for so many practitioners who have felt stuck and just unsure in clinic. So for those of you who don't know, Nicola, what is your EECN course?
Yeah, so it stands for Enterprising Excellence in Clinical Nutrition, and it's a course that runs over 4 weeks. So we meet once a week for four weeks for 2 hours, and we do an online live masterclass session together. And over those 4 weeks, we unpick a range of different things to do with how you work in practice, how you work with your clients. We look at things like this values system. We look at how you set up your relationship with your client, the language you use. We do a lot of work thinking about how we're framing in our head. Sometimes practitioners will say to me in my clinical support groups, they'll say, I'm seeing my client next week for our last appointment. It's this use of language that is not, why is it the last appointment? And maybe it is, maybe you have come to an actual end, but I don't know, just looking together at, like, what are we actually doing? What is the point of the work we're doing, and how are we structuring that work? And then how do we translate that to communicating that with our clients? What are the practical tools and techniques we need with how we communicate, how we work with our clients, and the depths that we might want to go into? Because for me, it's about going a little bit deeper with my clients. It's not just asking them to follow some recommendations. I want my clients to learn about their own relationship with food. I want them to understand why they're eating. I want them to understand if they're hungry or full. I want them to, some basic stuff that's quite important. So we spend time sort of looking at how you'd break all this down, how you would manage 12 sessions with your client, for example. A lot of people worry, what if I run out of things to do with the client? But actually, we're teaching on the course, how do you have an ongoing conversation with your client? It's about an ongoing conversation. It's about ongoing support and problem solving and doing the work in the appointment with the client. We really, another thing that I think as nutrition practitioners with this value-based sort of approach that's round the wrong way is, the homework element. You see someone and then you've got all of these reports to write afterwards. So we spend time looking at actually, I show the notes that I give clients. I show examples of, it doesn't have to be like this. You could do this instead. And actually, it's okay. You're going to be safe doing that. You're not going to lose your client by not sending them a 14-page document after. You can just send them 2 or 3 bullet points and that's enough. So we spend time looking at the practical side of things, but we also dig into helping clients with emotional eating, helping prescribing therapeutic diets without creating problems with food relationships. We look at, complex cases, how you might approach it, how we deal with this sort of imposter syndrome of thinking, I don't know enough yet to be able to work with these sorts of people. So it really is about taking a lot of the sort of the fear factor away from things and giving people permission to throw away the rule book, find a way that works for them, to have permission to keep trying different ways of working, but to be able to find a way where you can work with a few really good quality clients. And by that I mean clients who are invested, clients who are happy to pay to see you regularly, so that you're not always having to find more and more new clients, that you can have a small group of clients that you can work really closely with in a meaningful way over a meaningful period of time, that actually gives you a more sustainable business as well.
Would you say there's a specific type of practitioner that would benefit most from your course?
It's difficult to say because I've had so many different sorts of practitioners come through the course. So I think it's really good for anyone who's just starting out, who's fresh and wants to really start thinking about from day one, how do I work in a way that's going to allow me to create a sort of a really useful, sustainable business that gets results, right? And allows me to really get that job satisfaction of working close with the client and seeing those benefits quickly. But it's also, I've had practitioners do the course who honestly have been working 20 years. And for them, it's been like, oh my goodness, this is like completely transformed how I'm working. And I'm just saved so much time now, and I'm saving and I'm sort of earning more money as a result of that. So it really, I think it's a course that could benefit anyone, to be honest with you. Depending on your experience, you're going to come at it from different angles. But, it's just about it's a course for someone who really is thinking, I would like to, maybe they're feeling despondent, maybe they're feeling like, why are my clients not returning? Like, why do I see a client once or twice and then I never hear from them again? Why do my clients not follow what I ask them to do? Why am I feeling scared about booking them in for a follow-up because I don't know what to do? Those sorts of things. This is a perfect course for that sort of scenario, really.
And obviously the internet and social media is literally full with all these courses, and every second practitioner is like launching a course and it's the next best thing. How would you say your EECN course is different from something just being like an ordinary, another one of those type of things?
Yeah. Well, I think it's, first of all, it's really come from 20 years of me honing a way of working that has been successful. I do have a good business. I am busy. I am, this has been I work full time, right? This is not a hobby. So it's really coming from it's basically all of my mistakes and all of the things that I found to work being put into a course. It's not a course that is teaching you about a new condition. I think a lot of things with the training that we do, another thing that I see with practitioners is this thinking, I should know, I just need to learn a bit more before I can do X, Y, Z. Or it's not about that. The practitioners have the knowledge. They do. It's like how you apply that knowledge in a client-friendly way that allows you to grow and develop. And it's not teaching you a method which is like, this is a clear coaching method or anything like that. We're just looking together at the use of language. We're looking at framing. We're looking at communication with our clients, setting things up with our clients, but coming from a very real, honest perspective. And because it's a live course, there's the opportunity to ask the questions and to really get the most out of it in the moment. So there isn't another course that's like it, that's around, because most courses are either teaching you about business or they're teaching you about become a particular type of coach following my method. and here are all the tools, and here are all the downloads, and here are all the handouts. That's creating a robotic scenario, which, you know, you don't need that. You can be yourself, you know, or it's teaching you, learn about this condition and learn about this sort of health problem, which is all, they're all useful, but this is sort of completely different in its approach, really.
What would you say some of the most common challenges are that you see practitioners bringing into this course?
Major ones are sort of, feeling worried that they don't have enough to be able to give a client that they would see them really regularly. Feeling overwhelmed at the amount of work that they have to put into each consultation, and sort of doing that maths where they're like, gosh, I've worked out how much I've actually earned per hour and it's pittance, because by the time I've done all the research and then I've seen them and then we ran over, and then, you know, so then it was an hour's consultation but it turned into 90 minutes, or it was 90-minute consultation but it turned into 2 hours, or, you know, and all of the work that you do afterwards with the report writing and all of that stuff, you know, that's sort of the major thing. The other thing is like just getting clients and being able to create a sustainable business from a client, actually having the right words to say, having the right approach to take when you first meet someone, that allows you to set up the sort of the basis for that long-term collaborative working relationship. The major problems are that people are almost locked into how they've been taught, which makes a lot of sense because you're taught a particular way. But actually the problem with the way we're taught is, while it works to do what it needs to do to be able to assess you to be competent, ethical, and all of those really important things, it isn't really teaching you how to have a really sustainable business. And so, yeah, that can become disheartening after a while.
And what kinds of shifts or results do you typically see by the time someone comes, joins, and completes the course?
Messages I've had afterwards have been, for people that have newly graduated, it's been sort of, you know, I was not sure this was going to be the right path for me, but you have really sort of shown that I can find a way of working that's going to work for me and my personality and what my gut feeling was about this work before I started training. And I have a really clear model now for how I want to get set up, so how I want to present myself to the world and how I want to actually start working from day one. So quite a freeing element. People who've been working in the field for years, what they've said is it's been just a real game changer in terms of looking at the way they work completely differently, which the overwhelming feedback has been the time that they've got back, and that sort of not having that sort of homework situation hanging over their head all of the time. Improvements in confidence and having a really sort of clear way of being able to communicate with their clients effectively, to support their clients with the difficult things like emotional eating, with restrictive eating patterns, with clients who are fussy eaters, clients who are don't seem able on the surface to follow the recommendations that are made. So all of those things that can make work quite hard as a practitioner. Because it is challenging if you meet someone and they're not following the plan, they're not doing what you want them to do. That is quite hard. It can make it not particularly enjoyable, and you can always dread seeing those clients because you're thinking, what are they going to say today? But they do exist, or challenging, difficult clients. So just, it's about just looking at the individual and sort of understanding a bit more where the client is coming from, and again from this values perspective, maybe where we've got it all a bit round the wrong way.
And if someone's on the fence, maybe they've seen your name, they've seen you around, maybe they've done a lot of courses before this and they're still not fully confident. Is there anything that you'd want them to know about your course specifically?
I think, I think I'd want them to know that, this is sort of hand on heart, a tried and tested method that's worked for me and it's now working for other people. So it passes the sniff test in terms of authenticity and what it's about. It's a very open course. I'm sharing everything that I know that has worked for me, mistakes that I've made. I'm sharing my notes in the course. I'm sharing examples of things that I've done. It's quite exposing. No, but I think that this is, I want to show you don't have to be perfect. This isn't an ego-led scenario here. This is not about me saying I'm on a pedestal and this is the way. It's about me saying you can do this, and if I can do it, you can do it too. And this is some ideas for what you can do, but also you have permission to find out for yourself. This is your business. You are free. You are free to do whatever you want with this business. And also I do say to people, because I really passionately believe this, and I have had it fed back that this, from people, but for the price that you pay for the course, you would get that money back so easily by just taking on board some of the suggestions and allowing yourself the opportunity to experiment with how you're working. It will come back. It will come back for you, in a beneficial way.
And if practitioners listening to this want to find out more about the course or what it is exactly that you have to offer, where can they learn some more information?
So I run the course normally once or twice a year. So I would say to go to my website, which is www.nicola-moore.com. In between that, I do run ongoing clinical support groups as well. So I've always got support running for practitioners. So the main Enterprising Excellence in Clinical Nutrition course, that will come onto my website when I'm ready to sort of open up and sort of take people into the course. And then the clinical support group information is on the website under practitioners and students. And that really allows people a place to come and get support, help, advice, direction, talk, make friends, feel a sense of community through their working year.
And this is a thing, we'll get into the CSG groups now because they're incredible and I've heard so much about them. But what I want to quickly do is I want to play a quick game of true or false.
Oh God,
the way it's going to work is that I'm going to read out a few common beliefs floating around in the health space. And you, Nicola, you literally just say true or false and just keep it to one-word answers. No explanations. All right.
Okay. I will try.
All right, so we've got 10.
Okay,
so first things first. More qualifications make you a better practitioner.
False.
You need to be fully booked to be successful.
False.
Clinical confidence only comes with years of experience.
False.
You should work with anyone who wants to book a session.
False.
You have to be on social media to grow your practice.
False.
You should niche down as soon as possible.
I would say false. Is that okay? I feel like I'm giving the same answer for everything.
No, we're good. We got 4 more to go.
Okay.
The best practitioners still doubt themselves sometimes.
True.
If a client isn't compliant, it's your fault.
False.
Burnout is just part of being in practice.
False.
And then finally, you can't build a sustainable practice without business skills.
course, but you don't need many. Am I allowed to say that?
We'll squeeze that in because it's the last one. All right, perfect. That was cool. And honestly, so many of those myths are exactly what I think practitioners feel. They feel isolated, they feel unsure, and they just feel like they're doing something wrong, which actually brings me to the next talking point. And I know that you've had a massive impact on your community through your clinical support group. So for those of you who have never heard of them, Nicola, what exactly are your clinical support groups and how do they work?
Okay, so the origin story is I worked for many years at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition in the training clinic, and a wonderful part of that role was I got to meet so many amazing people on a weekly basis and talk about cases, talk about nutritional therapy, which is a subject I am obsessed with. I love it. Okay, so I love nutritional therapy. And there was a lot of, stress with those days as well, because students are understandably often quite nervous about doing their consultations. So they do their consultations and you have chats afterwards all together as a group, or that's how it used to work. When I left ION, I really, really missed that connection. And I thought, what were all the best bits about that job that I loved the most? And really, it was those conversations and that support and that amazing feeling you get when you're all together talking about a case and feeling like you're all adding value to support somebody. So I decided to set up these clinical support groups. And I didn't think it would be a big thing, but I just thought, I want to have that connection with people. I want to carry on working with people. I feel like I've got something to offer. I don't know that there is as much support as, there could be, again, for reasons that are out of the control of so many of these institutions, So that's why I set them up. And really, they are a place where we meet once a month. They're small groups. So it's not like loads and loads of people in them and everyone comes to this free-for-all. I have very small groups. I'm quite particular about the numbers in each group. We meet together once a month for 90 minutes for the first meeting, where we talk about our cases, clinical questions, anything to do with testing, you name it, anything. And that's a place for people to come and just talk about nutritional therapy. It's also a place where people can just sit and listen and absorb. Because when I was first working in practice and I began working at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition, felt like a complete charlatan, felt like I knew nothing. I learned so much from earwigging conversations that were happening with other practitioners who are more experienced than me. And I just believe the power of conversation is so powerful for learning and for confidence. So I want these groups to be a place where someone could just come and just sit and listen. That no one ever has to bring something. There's always stuff for us to talk about. So we do that once a month. And then we also meet a second time in the month to talk about businessy stuff. And that's not me being a business coach. It's not me saying that I have all the answers. But again, it's a very honest, ego-free place where there are not like loads of strong, you have to niche, you have to do this, blah, blah. It's literally, what do you charge for this? I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? I'm doing this. Has anyone got any advice? What would you do about a website? What would you, it's just having those honest conversations with people where we're all sharing together openly what we're doing. It's just fantastic. I mean, those meetings I added on after a while, and I wasn't sure how they were going to go, but those ones are so brilliant. And seeing how everyone over the last few years has been really growing and developing their businesses and the ideas that we all talk about and how that sort of manifests like action is pretty amazing to me. So that's the main part of the groups. We do have a community area. We have a little WhatsApp group. We've got an area where I've sort of developed sort of lab test education information. There's a podcast on there just for the members, where I've got conversations with lots of nutritional therapists about what they've done through their business and their lives and their work. So there's sort of a membership area as well with additional resources. But the main magic is the meetings, because they're small and because you're with the same people every month, you get to know people, you get to remember the cases, you get to remember the conversations. And it's like if you're working alone, what's really nice about them is it's like having a monthly work meeting where you're all getting together and all discussing stuff. It just gives you a boost. And that's what people say. It just gives them a boost each month. It's something that everyone really looks forward to attending.
And you've obviously created this where the clinical support groups blends both the clinical mentoring, but then also the emotional support.
Yeah.
Why was that combination so important to you?
I don't know that I gave it that much in-depth thought. I just think that deep down, I am, my personality is that I want to help, I want to share, I want to support, and I want people to feel empowered to be successful in whatever way. Everyone has a completely different personality. Everyone's going to have a completely unique road to their business and how they work. And we just need to support each other and be really kind in that scenario. So I just think people that tend to work in nutritional therapy, or I'd probably say any therapeutic role, we are a particular type of personality, often highly sensitive, often quite sponges for sort of emotion, often very good emotional intelligence, and also sort of very empathetic. And those make us good practitioners and all of that. But actually, it can also be a burden as well, and it can be a challenge. So, just having a place to come where you can just get that additional layer of support, I think, and kindness is really important. I think, I just want everyone to see the human side. I want practitioners to know that it's okay to say I'm stuck, or I don't know what I'm doing, or to not have the answers, because I certainly don't. And I quite enjoy it when I can say, gosh, I don't know about that, let's look at it together. I think that's really nice, because then surely, I think if that was me in the group, I'd be thinking, oh, that's good, Nicola doesn't know either, and that's nice, because that means, why should we all know everything? But more than one head on the case a problem shared is a problem halved.
There we go. And how do you foster a sense of trust and connection in a group setting, especially when people might feel vulnerable or unsure?
Well, I think the number one thing to say is I don't prescribe to. I've been part of groups before where there's been an expectation that you are going to need to share, you are going to need to bring something. That for me is blocking for me as a person. So I think you create a nice safe space where people feel safe to talk and share things when there's no pressure that they have to, number one, which is why I just love the fact that people can just come and sit and listen. I also think that it's easy to create a culture where there isn't ego, where there isn't this sort of feeling sort of that a question is stupid. It's quite easy to create a culture where that isn't a problem. I think we've certainly got that in the groups, because everyone. It doesn't matter how experienced in inverted commas you are with nutritional therapy or seeing clients, or however number of clients you've seen, or however many years you've been practicing. We're all adults. We've all, every one of the people in my groups are exceptional people with exceptional experience and exceptional skill who have done or are completing a really high level course. Really challenging. Nutritional therapy, when I have met students or people that have done master's degrees, even PhDs, they say this course is harder than any of that I did, right? So these are hard courses. So everyone is exceptional, And yeah, you're dealing with lovely people all the time. Like, I just can't think of any nutritional therapists that I don't like. So it's very easy to then therefore have a lovely community feel in a group.
Are you able to share a specific example of a transformation or a breakthrough that someone inside of the CSGs that really stuck with you, an experience where they came in and they were stuck, and through your groups, through your support, they were able to kind of overcome that?
Well, let me tell you one story. I hope she won't mind me sharing. It's just that I love this lady so much and I love this story. So there is a practitioner who she's trained a long time ago. Then for various reasons, including moving abroad, couldn't practice for a number of years. And then had to do what we would call a return to practice qualification. So because the science does move on, and so she had to do this return to practice, and that kind of messed with her head a little bit, because all of a sudden she was being put into this kind of really structured way of thinking she had to work, and it kind of blocked her ability to actually want to see clients one-to-one, which was a real shame, because she'd was finally ready to go, and it's almost like the return to practice ruined it for her, which is such a shame. So she joined the clinical support groups, and to begin with, she was just listening and talking. Always has lots of brilliant questions. She sort of started doing her website, bits and pieces. She then did the Enterprising Excellence in Clinical Nutrition course, and that really changed for her, like it really sort of allowed her to untangle herself from the noise in her head from this return to practice course. But within the clinical support groups, what's been wonderful is she's been sharing and getting advice and asking questions over the past 6 months or even longer on a course that she's started doing, which is almost like a in your kitchen nutrition sort of workshops, where she has people come and they have a theme and they talk about it, and she cooks some food and they have a lovely lunch. And that has been created through our discussions in the groups. That whole thing's been created. And then we've talked about, how do we keep this going and what do you do next? And she's got all of the answers and the ideas. It's not that none of us have, this is her, but she's had the place to come and talk about it, and we've all been like, this is amazing. And now what's great is she's saying to other people, that this is what I did, this is what you could do. And it's just so wonderful. And she's still doing sort of building the one-to-one stuff, but she's just finding her own path. And it's just been, that has been lovely. There's a number of stories like that. But I picked that one because it also demonstrates it doesn't have to be about one-to-one. It doesn't have to be, your work can be your work. You can find there are so many different avenues within this profession to work with people and help people and talk to people about nutrition.
And on that note, first, the incredible story. I'm sure that's just one of many, many stories and things that have come from your clinical support groups. But a final question on the clinical support groups is, obviously you have these students and practitioners coming into them. How do you balance the group between the two without it feeling uneven with, for example, someone like yourself with 20 plus years of experience, and then someone who's just graduated?
So so the students tend to be in their own groups. So I tend to keep the students in a student group, because there are different things that the students need. So we'll be talking in the student groups more about, they might have more general questions to do with things that they're learning about and how does this apply in practice, or there will be a number of students that are going through their training clinic experience, so they're getting their cases and they're nervous about that, and we're looking at the cases together, we're looking together at how are you going to approach this, all of that sort of thing. So there's a different energy in the student groups. The practitioner groups so then once someone graduates, they move more into practitioner group. Now, actually, for a while, I separated out the more experienced practitioners and the newer qualified practitioners. But actually, what I found was, because of, you just want to fit in with people's day and be able to offer days and times that work for people, it made it a bit harder. So I just merged everyone together again. And you just don't notice. You just don't notice. Everyone has the same valid questions. Everyone has the same thoughts. Everyone can add value. So it's interesting. Again, it's getting away from this hierarchy. I don't really believe in hierarchy or that kind of, or I'm more experienced than you, or I just don't want to subscribe to that. And I also think that the newer graduates really benefit from listening to the conversations of the more experienced practitioners, and the more experienced practitioners have written really meaty cases for us to look at, but can also help with other cases. And I don't, it just works. I can't explain it, but it works. It works really well.
It makes perfect sense. It actually leads me back to the point that we spoke about earlier, where it's like the perception of value. So
yeah,
also the different perspectives, like the way that a new grad looks at something versus the way that a seasoned expert practitioner looks at it, it's very different. So yeah. I see the benefit of having them combined and using that energy as an upward spiral of positivity and support. So
yeah.
I completely align on that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, you want to add on that?
No.
So then, even outside of your programs, you've obviously picked up a lot of wisdom. You've been doing this for a very long time. So I just want to zoom out and talk about what really helps practitioners grow, and specifically you. So what would you say that the biggest thing holding practitioners back is, even if they're fully qualified and capable?
I think that there's a bit of a problem. Maybe it's a gender thing, because they've actually researched this in the nursing profession. So this isn't linked specifically to nutritional therapy, but I see this a lot, is this sense of, I don't know enough yet. So I can't go for this because I can't accept this. I can't take on this sort of client because I don't know enough yet. Or I can't quite get started yet because I don't know enough yet. I can't do that talk because I'm not experienced enough yet. I can't approach these people because I don't know enough. I'd love to one day work alongside a doctor, but I need to get the experience and all of that first, That is something that I think really holds people back, You don't see it so much with men. And they have studied this looking at nursing. So in nursing, they wanted to understand, why are so many of the senior nursing positions taken by men when there are so few men in nursing compared to women? And when they investigated it, is that the female nurses was like, well, I couldn't apply for that promotion because I didn't feel I had enough experience yet. Whereas the male nurses were like, well, I saw the job, I saw the opportunity, and I wanted it. So I applied. Fair play. And you got the job, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I think that understanding value, understanding where we can add value, understanding that it's just food. We're just helping people to enjoy food. It's a very safe, very joyful job. So just getting started, accepting, saying yes to things that feel uncomfortable. There's a brilliant student in the clinical support groups at the moment. She comes across as being one of the most timid, sort of fearful people, but she's always doing things. She's always saying yes to things. She's always pushing herself forward, and that is amazing. So I think we just need to say yes, and we just need to go for it.
Awesome.
We need some fighting spirit. We need a bit of fighting spirit.
So after 20 plus years of being in this industry, if I had to say to you, Nicola, we're going back in time, you're starting over, but you can keep all the knowledge and wisdom that you've built, what would you do differently?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I would not waste a load of years, first of all, being scared about follow-up appointments and sort of being scared that feeling like I'm imposing on the client by even suggesting we meet again for another appointment. Like, I would, I would really have understanding this value thing, and also understanding about having more of a growth mindset. I was locked into a scarcity mindset for many years, and it's something I still have to work on. It's my default. But, I think just being braver. I was brave in many ways. I got my clinic room organised. As soon as I've been practicing for 2 years, I applied for a job at ION straight away. So there's I pushed myself into doing lecturing. So I've done a lot of things, but in terms of my actual business, I think I should have started listening to what my clients were telling me earlier. I should have given myself permission to actually respond to their feedback earlier. It would have allowed me to shape my approach to working probably 5-6 years earlier than I did. And that would have meant, I don't really know, but it would have been better.
And for anyone listening who's resonated with what you've shared today and maybe feels like they've been trying to figure this all out on their own, where can people learn more about the EECN course and the clinical support groups?
Yeah, so they can look at my website, which is www.nicola-moore.com. I'm on Instagram at Nicola Moore Nutrition. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so people can connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message, email me at nutrition@nicola-moore.com. Send me a direct message on Instagram, send me a message on LinkedIn. Very easy to get hold of me. Always happy to answer questions and to give more information.
And is there anything coming up soon or kind of in the works that practitioners should know about or potentially just keep an eye open for?
So I will be running the EECN course again later this year in the autumn. So that is coming up soon. So I do it maybe once a year. Last time I ran it was in the autumn last year. So I'll be gearing up to run that again soon. Yeah.
And before we wrap up completely, I've got a few quick fire sentence finishes for you. So just say the first thing that comes to mind. We're just doing 3, all right?
Okay.
Perfect. The best part of being a practitioner is?
I get to help people. I get to help people feel better.
A book every practitioner should read is?
Okay, this is a bit heavier. Nutrition Counselling in the Treatment of Eating Disorders by Marcia Heron. Even if you're not working in eating disorders, it's something that we should all have an awareness of.
What I wish more practitioners understood is?
That they're good enough and that they're amazing.
Perfect.
And they can help. Yeah.
There you go. Nicola, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. It was genuinely packed with insight, and I know that so many practitioners are going to walk away feeling more clear, confident, and supported. So if you're listening and something that Nicola shared today resonates with you, go check out the links in the show notes. I'll leave links to all of Nicola's socials and where you can find her below. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Practify.
And thanks for all your help.